So today I will be talking to you about the origin and folklore of vampires and how they've changed throughout history and become into pop culture now. Some psychologists have suggested that there is something within the human psyche that craves monsters and mysterious creatures. For some individuals, the very idea that vampires, werewolves, and chupacabras are out there lurking in the shadows makes the adrenaline surge in otherwise humdrum and dull workday world. The origin of vampires is a long and well-told history. Almost every nation around the world has some legend or myth revolving around vampires or vampiric-like creatures. However, the origin of what we as Americans understand to be vampires is heavily based in Slavic legends. The story of vampires originated in the Slavic region as a way to explain the unexplainable, but what we now know as the natural process of decomposing bodies. These occurrences included things like cases of non-decomposing bodies in climates where the weather supported cold temperatures, premature burials, or cases in which the humans appeared to be dead and were buried and later woke up while already buried in the ground, and when dug up, there were scratch marks on the inside of the coffin. Deaths from unidentifiable or mysterious illnesses within the same family or community. So it would now be considered a disease that's being spread throughout one family was unexplainable to people in ancient times. It has been theorized that with these as the base of folklore, that gypsies picked up the stories and as they traveled around spread them to more people in their areas. After Christianity was brought to the area, the stories were spread even further because it was taken to all countries and not just the non-Christian ones. The folklore spread from there and was originally started with pagan lore that said a vampire was a manifestation of an unclean spirit that would possess a decomposing body. The vampires were considered to be vengeful and jealous creatures and arose in the night so that they could suck the blood of the living and punish them for not being in the same position as the vampires. After these started, it became common for vampires to be blamed for other unexplainable occurrences, like the cause of the spreading of diseases, forcing people into a deep sleep or a coma, which was not understood in those times, and the death of many people and livestock. To accomplish these tasks, it is believed that vampires could take on the form of creatures like bats or even mist. In addition to this, vampires were able to control creatures like rats and wolves and had command of the elements in order to help do their bidding. To counteract these fears, people came up with ways to protect themselves from vampires. In the Christian religion, it was believed that either a crucifix or a cross would help to fend off vampires. In non-Christian areas, folklore led to folk cures like garlic, hawthorn, and mountain ash. Another defense was scattering seeds. Vampires were supposed to have wanted to count everything they came across. So if you scattered seeds in an area that would become light during the dawn, it's believed the vampires would stay there all night long to count every single seed, and when the sun came up, they would burn. If a vampire was discovered because these cures and protections weren't helpful, the people developed ways in which they could destroy a vampire. These ways included burning corpses, cutting a head or decapitation, and then burying the head between the feet, behind the buttocks, or away from the body, burning corpses upside down with the face turned to the bottom of the grave, staking a corpse or a head with a wooden peg, especially made of ash, or a metal object like a knife or a nail, or in some cases they used railroad ties. Covering a grave with a pile of stones is also thought to help because the vampires wouldn't be able to break through it. Tying up the body was also thought that it would be effective. And then putting stones or coins in the mouth was said to help ferry the dead across to the other side so they wouldn't wake up as vampires. These myths and legends have opened the door for books and movies that have become popular in our culture now. The stories have spread with the invention of things like movies and the printing press. Books like Dracula and Nosferatu made countries like Romania no longer having hold of the most belief in vampires. It spread to the Americas and became popular here. The myths and legends of old have opened the doors for stories like Interview with the Vampire, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and the ever-popular Twilight Saga. You can see through these stories how the myths and legends of vampires have evolved. In movies like in books by Anne Rice, in the Vampire Chronicles, vampires still tried to stay hidden from society and still fed on people. In Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we were introduced to a vampire that had regained his soul and was able to fall in love and choose to fight for good. And in Twilight, we saw the birth of a whole new type of vampire, one who could walk in the daylight, chose to live among humans, and chose to fall in love and continue life as if they were alive. As time goes on, humans have romanticized the vampire and will continue to do so. No matter what happens, I doubt that vampires will ever become a non-popular subject. There's an ever-growing collection of novels and stories being told and movies being made at all times. So vampires have found their way into popular culture now, even though they started as terrifying myths and legends of old.